Next, on Currents News, the Vatican hacked by spies from communist China, the plot uncovered by tech experts in the U.S. At the same time, the biggest names in high tech in the U.S. are in the hot seat. Congress looking into allegations the companies are strangling their competitors. Dreamers have their eyes fixed on the White House, their future hanging in the balance.
A Catholic high school student who went viral during a pandemic. I'm Jessica Easthope with how she's inspiring others while overcoming the biggest battle of her life.
Plus, missiles couldn't destroy it tonight. A look inside at the magnificent restoration of the Maronite Cathedral in Aleppo. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. The hacking of the Vatican is being blamed tonight on communist Chinese agents. The spies gaining entry into the church's computer networks just ahead of sensitive negotiations between the Holy See and Beijing. Currents News' Emily Druby has the story.
Communist Chinese hackers are being accused of spying on the Vatican, breaking into the Holy See's computer networks. The espionage coming right before sensitive negotiations between Beijing and Rome are to begin. The talks aimed at renewing a landmark deal the two sides reached in 2018 regarding the authority to appoint Catholic bishops in China. That agreement has the backing of Pope Francis.
The agreement is the fruit of a long and thoughtful journey of dialogue. It is intended to foster a more positive collaboration between the Holy See and the Chinese authorities for the good of the Catholic community in China and for the harmony of the whole society.
The hacking plot was uncovered by cyber sleuths in Massachusetts who've determined the break-ins are being masterminded by the Chinese government. The spies are also accused of snooping into the computers of the Diocese of Hong Kong and other Catholic offices, presumably looking for an edge in the upcoming church-state negotiations set to begin in September. Retired Hong Kong Cardinal Joseph Zen has been a fierce critic of the 2018 deal, blaming the Pope's advisors for steering him in the wrong direction. Back in 2019, Cardinal Zen said, "I don't see the purpose for the good of our faith, our freedom, because he must know the reality. He knows the reality just as much as I know." The cyber attack started in May and continued until last week, July 21st. The current deal and the upcoming talks to renew it are attempts to ease diplomatic relations between China and the Vatican after they were severed when the communists came to power in 1951. At the heart of the discussions is who has the authority to appoint bishops, the Chinese government or the Pope. The two sides also hope to unite the country's 12 million Catholics who are split into two groups, those belonging to the official church sponsored by the state and those loyal to an underground church that pledges allegiance to the Pope. As for the hacks, Beijing routinely denies it engages in any state-backed hacking, while the Vatican spokesperson has no immediate comment on the hacking news. Emily Druby, Currents News.
Human trafficking is running rampant worldwide, and the peddlers of people are using the COVID pandemic as a cover for their evil. That warning coming from Caritas, the Catholic relief agency operating in over 200 countries. They're accusing the traffickers of preying on people who've lost their jobs because of the virus crisis. Most at risk are migrants performing domestic, agricultural, and construction work. Caritas is calling for urgent action to protect them. Another COVID warning is out tonight, and this one is about how many Americans could die from the disease. The experts are saying if face masks are not worn and social distancing not kept, the results could be catastrophic. Karen Kafa has the story from Washington.
We've seen a 66% increase in cases just over the last 7 days, and during the last 6 weeks, a 220% increase in cases.
We have over 6,000 deaths in Florida. We've had 1,425 deaths in my county alone. And based on the projections, I think we're going to have 20 to 30 or more deaths every single day ongoing just in my county.
Local officials in cities and towns across the country say the number of COVID-19 cases is surging. And as the number of deaths nears 150,000 nationwide, the head of the Association of American Medical Colleges is issuing a warning to Americans.
If we don't do something to change our course, we will have multiple hundreds of thousands of deaths in this country.
Please wearing a mask.
And White House Coronavirus Task Force members urging Americans to wear masks and follow social distancing guidelines in order to slow the spread.
There are things that we can do right now in the absence of a vaccine that can turn us around. The fundamental things of avoiding crowds, physical separation, universal wearing of masks, closing the bars, hand hygiene.
In Washington, Karen Kafa, Currents News.
Also on Capitol Hill today, big tech CEOs being grilled by lawmakers. The chairman of the House Judiciary Committee's antitrust panel slammed the companies, saying they act like a private government.
Their ability to dictate terms, call the shots, upend entire sectors, and inspire fear represent the powers of a private government. Our founders would not bow before a king, nor should we bow before the emperors of the online economy.
The CEOs for Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google's parent company, Alphabet, testified via video in front of the committee. The concern of the lawmakers is that these companies have too much power, stifling competition and hurting customers. The Trump administration is still not accepting new applications for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, or DACA. That's the program that keeps people who came to the U.S. as kids from being deported. However, it is allowing current DACA recipients to renew their status for 1 year, so a review of the program can take place.
We are going to make DACA happy and the DACA people and representatives happy, and we're also going to end up with a fantastic merit-based immigration system.
The announcement comes about a month after the Supreme Court blocked President Trump's attempt to end DACA altogether. The recent move is expected to face legal challenges, especially since a federal judge recently said the administration has to start accepting new applications for DACA. President Trump has another challenge ahead of him. He left this morning for Texas, where polls have shown a dead heat between him and Joe Biden for months, even though the Lone Star State has traditionally been a red state. The president is meeting with campaign donors and will visit an oil rig to highlight his energy policies. Also in the Lone Star State, Catholic dioceses are checking on damage after getting slammed by Hurricane Hannah. The storm hit the Diocese of Corpus Christi hard after making landfall this week. Disaster teams are shoring up parishes and schools to prevent further damage. The storm also ripped through the Diocese of Brownsville. Hannah is the first Atlantic hurricane of the 2020 season. The path to possible sainthood is going through Connecticut. That's where the founder of the Knights of Columbus, Father Michael McGivney, will be beatified on October 31st at the Cathedral of St. Joseph in Hartford. The priest was born in Waterbury in 1852. The miracle attributed to his intercession and necessary for beatification involved an unborn baby with no hope of survival. The boy is now a healthy 5-year-old. Another miracle is required before Father McGivney is canonized. The Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca is very different this year because of the coronavirus. The Hajj getting underway today with only about 1,000 pilgrims allowed to participate at the Saudi Arabian site, one of Islam's holiest. Teams of workers sanitized and scrubbed down the mosque before people arrived in Mecca. The Hajj is one of Islam's most important requirements, performed once in a lifetime. Last year, 2.5 million Muslims took part. There's a lot more news headed your way. If you've got kids, you know what TikTok is. We have the story of a New York City teen who used the app to document a courageous journey. Plus, you can relax about the amount of time your child spends online. The experts say it's quality over quantity. We'll explain. And why some kids could be walking to school when schools finally reopen their doors. Stay with us.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/sendus, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
A Catholic high school student is a viral inspiration. The Staten Island teenager is using the widely popular TikTok app, and she's lifting spirits and providing hope during this pandemic while fighting the biggest battle of her life. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story.
First time getting chemo check.
TikTok, it's the social media platform that skyrocketed into popularity, especially among many of the world's teenagers.
A lot of you guys have followed me since my first chemo.
So it was only natural for 16-year-old Isabella URSINI to use the platform's viral dances and funny voiceovers to document her life.
So starting tomorrow, I'm halfway done with chemo.
Even when she began to live through the unimaginable.
At first, I didn't even know what lymphoma was. I was so confused on why my parents were so upset.
Belle, as she's known to her family and friends, was diagnosed with cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma, in February, a month after her sweet 16.
It was horrible.
Her mom, Tracy, was living every parent's nightmare.
You wish no one ever has to go through.
But Belle was taking her diagnosis in stride and putting everyone around her at ease.
She made it easier on everybody because she made light of it.
This is a day of chemo.
She began chemotherapy at the height of the pandemic and was pulled out of St. Joseph Hill Academy on Staten Island in the middle of her sophomore year. Before the world was under quarantine, Belle became an expert at it.
I would hang out with my friends all the time, but then I was neutropenic, so I couldn't do that. Like, even before Corona was a thing, I was quarantined for a while.
But TikTok kept Belle connected, not only to her friends, but to the rest of the world. She went viral on the social media app with this video. It has 1.3 million views. Belle finished chemo, and Wednesday is her last radiation session.
I'm in remission, which is crazy.
She made it through the biggest battle of her life and inspired so many along the way.
I've had people DM me and say, oh, what should I say to my friend that just got diagnosed?
As for Belle's future, it's looking brighter than ever. She's now headed for the next chapter.
Like, the first thing I thought of when I was diagnosed was, whoa, this is a good idea for my college essay. This is a good one. I'm gonna go places with this one.
Belle is already on her way. On Staten Island, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Turning to politics, we are less than 100 days until Election Day and should know soon who will be on the Democratic ticket. Presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden says he'll choose his running mate next week. He has said he'll choose a woman and has faced pressure from his own party to choose a woman of color. There's speculation that California Senator Kamala Harris could be that woman after Biden was photographed holding handwritten notes with her name at the top. Meanwhile, we are exactly 2 months away from the first presidential debate. It's set for September 29th, but it will no longer be held at the University of Notre Dame. College officials say they pulled out because of concerns over the coronavirus, so the debate has been moved to Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland. There's a battle of political wills on Capitol Hill over getting help to the American people during the pandemic. Federal unemployment benefits are about to run out, and the lawmakers are at a stalemate. Whitney Wild has the story from the White House.
Bickering on the Senate floor.
Shame on our Republican friends.
Republicans are ready to govern.
As lawmakers debate the next round of legislative relief.
We Democrats want a real bill that answers people's needs.
For businesses and families struggling amid the coronavirus pandemic.
Let's get past this partisan cheap shots and have an adult conversation.
The Senate Republican proposal includes incentives for schools to reopen, tax cuts and liability protections for businesses, hospitals, and schools from lawsuits related to the pandemic.
Republicans put forward a $1 trillion proposal for kids, jobs, and health care, including direct cash to households and even more cash to unemployment people.
The Republican plan slashes federal unemployment payments from $600 per week to $200 per week before being replaced by a federal and state unemployment hybrid.
Taxpayers should not pay people more not to work than people who do go back to work.
Democrats also want a direct stimulus payment, but their $3 trillion plan keeps unemployment benefits as is, while including housing relief and food assistance.
If you can barely afford the rent, can't find work, can't feed your kids, or are fighting your family's future, the Republican plan leaves you out in the cold.
A final deal between Republicans and Democrats also must get the green light from President Trump. And while the road to compromise will be long and rocky, everyone agrees the nation needs relief.
Let us come together and get something done. America desperately needs our help.
At the White House, I'm Whitney Wild.
Families have been dealing with many problems caused by the pandemic. Their kids' increased screen time is one of them. But the experts say the quality of the content they're viewing is more important than the number of hours they spend online. The report from Common Sense Media says digital media should serve as a social safety net and should be used for adolescents to interact with friends and family members they can't see in person. If kids go back to school in the fall, keeping them safe is a big issue. Millions rely on school buses, but most don't have space for social distancing, which could leave your child without a seat on the bus. Bianna Goladriga reports.
These buses are overloaded.
Honestly, it was what?
Lucy Forbes was shocked when she learned that her 13-year-old daughter won't be eligible to take a school bus to and from her Houston middle school. The city's acting superintendent recently announced that in order to meet CDC social distancing guidelines, only a fraction of its 60,000 students who regularly ride the bus will have an available seat.
Only special education, homeless, and priority students will be transported.
We have to make alternatives.
Forbes, a single mother, works full-time. Her hours at the office make it nearly impossible for her to drive her daughter herself.
For me, it will require a 2-hour commute a day. I have a greater spectrum of options, and I am worried about the families who don't.
We have normally anywhere from 76, I think, to 83 students per capacity. As you can see, we've labeled our seats where we would space students out.
And does this require configuring every school bus in the city?
We're working through that right now.
Refitting buses is a challenge for school districts already facing budget pressures. Austin, Texas announced buses will have a capacity of 12 students, and like Houston, only eligible students will be provided with initial seating. Atlanta will be limiting bus ridership to 60%. Philadelphia Public Schools plan to limit each school bus to 11 to 15 students. Smaller cities are also feeling the pressure.
It's more of a rural school issue. Many of your bigger metropolitan schools where they may have more students, but quite often have smaller geographic districts.
The Ionia School District covers more than 132 square miles across Michigan, where over 1,500 students rely on bus transportation. Superintendent Ron Wilson is running out of options when schools will open their doors August 26th.
I would not have enough buses to socially distance the kids. I would need basically 6 buses to complete a single bus route.
It's not just about keeping kids safe. Many school bus drivers are concerned about possible risks to their own health, too.
As you can see, they haven't done anything to these buses. We should have a petition, something that will block us from the kids as they board the bus.
Robert Salley has been a school bus driver in the Boston area for 39 years.
I get a lot of calls from drivers to ask me, what is the plan for starting September 10th? And it's really bad to say, we don't know anything.
There are currently few solutions at hand. The school bus industry has introduced a $10 billion relief plan that Congress may or may not take up. Social distancing will make carpooling less appealing. And according to the CDC, less than 10% of U.S. students walk or bike to most schools.
It's great to say that schools are open, but if we don't have a reliable way that's organized and structured to send our kids there, it will trickle down into nothing else happening either.
Again, that was Bianna Goladriga reporting. No word yet on New York City's plan for school buses. Every year, some 150,000 students rely on them to get to school. Still to come on Currents News, rising from the ashes, a new beginning for a more than century-old cathedral destroyed in a war. Also ahead. Singing for joy, it's a first for this Brooklyn prayer crew. Details ahead. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. It was a joyful reunion of a Brooklyn prayer group. Parishioners at Holy Cross held their first in-person prayer meeting on Saturday. As you can see, they met outdoors and followed social distancing rules. We'd like to thank Donica Allen for sending us this video. If you have pictures or video of an event, send it to us at netny.tv/sendus, and you just might see it on the air. A Maronite Cathedral in Aleppo has reopened its doors for prayer. It's been rebuilt after being demolished by jihadists during the war and being bombarded by missiles. Claudia Torres shows us the transformation.
The Maronite Christians in Aleppo have restored their cathedral destroyed during the war. This video was projected during the ceremony, showing its reconstruction story. It was built in 1873 and renovated in 1914 on another church that already existed in the 15th century. This is what it looked like inside before the war. But the cathedral suffered the same fate as the Christians in Aleppo and was deeply wounded between 2012 and 2016. Especially in 2013, the jihadists targeted it in an attempt to erase all Christian vestiges in the area. When this area of the city was liberated in 2016, a handful of Christians celebrated Christmas here. Now, with the help of the Pontifical Foundation, ACN, and other institutions, the cathedral has been rebuilt. And the result is impressive.
When we see now the Cathedral of St. Elia, it's a miracle. It's fantastic that it shines in the old splendor, and I wish that it became again the center of the whole Christian community, as it was ages before until this dreadful war.
Thomas Hein-Geldern asked the Syrian Christians to enter the new cathedral and pray for the thousands of benefactors who helped finance these works. A light of hope on an uncertain horizon. While the wound in this cathedral is the first to heal, there is another that will take longer to recover. Before the war, there were around 180,000 Christians in Aleppo. Now there are no more than 30,000. The restoration of this Maronite cathedral represents a new beginning for all of them. Claudia Torres, Currents News.
Finally tonight, Queen of Peace Parish is rebuilding after an arson attack. A man crashed his minivan through the front door of the Ocala, Florida church earlier this month and set the building on fire while parishioners were inside. In a video from the diocese, the pastor spoke about the attack.
Nobody at all was hurt, thank God. Nobody. My parishioners, for the most part, are mature people like myself. And so, oh my God, the church is on fire. And who could have done this? Evil never attacks evil, so the church is something very good. So I take the attack on the church as a sign that we're doing the right thing here.
Father O'Doherty says artwork on the church walls was damaged and will be replaced. Relics of St. Therese, Blessed Elizabeth of the Trinity, and St. John of the Cross were saved from the flames. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.